Sanctus Real, Alone, right here on Yes FM. Music that will change your life. And, of course, you're never alone here at Yes FM. We love you. We take good care of you here. We look after you at Yes FM. All right, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I think in the 7 o'clock hour. 27% of Americans believe God plays a role in sporting events. This is according to a new poll by the Public Religion Research Institute. They polled over 1,000 American adults. Found that 27% believe that God does play a role in supporting events. And then another 53% believe God rewards athletes who have faith. What do you think about this? Does God care about the Super Bowl? Does God care about sporting events? Is he playing a hand? Is destiny taking a hand? Is the outcome of the San Francisco 49ers and the Baltimore Ravens game going to be dependent on who prays harder? Who's been more faithful in their Christian walk? Which Christians on which team? Will it be a sign of God's favor? Does that mean the Christians on the losing team are being rebuked by God? Christians on the winning team being rewarded? I'd like to get your thoughts. We got a few minutes here left. 419-240-1937 or 1-800-457-1937. Does God care about who wins these games? Does it matter to him? Is he playing a role in sporting events? And is he rewarding one team over the other because of their faith? It's a tricky question. Because, one, they're going to be Christians on both teams, right? And we know from history, not always seemingly the best Christian wins. Let's go to the phone lines. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Who are we talking to?
Ian from Wasion.
Ian from Wasion. How are you, sir?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Good. Hey, can you turn down your radio a bit?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Ian. All right. So, Ian, what do you think? Is God taking sides in the Super Bowl?
No, not really, because even in the Bible it says that he loves everyone. That's why he sent his son down to die on the cross for us. I mean, if you have faith that you're going to win, it's more of a mental than faith-wise.
So do you think God plays any role at all, or is he just, up there watching the game with the rest of us, eating chips?
He's just out there watching the game with the rest of us.
So you don't think he takes any role in it?
No.
Okay, fair. Now, and so you're kind of basing that on the idea that he loves us equally, and he's not going to play favorites.
Exactly.
Even choosing Michigan over Ohio State.
Oh God, that's hard for me now. No, I mean, like I said before, God sent his son down the cross for all of us. He loves us all equally. I mean, that's the way I was raised, and you got to take into account I'm Southern, so it's the fact that I'm God-fearing, so.
Well, that's good. We appreciate that. We applaud that. Hey, thanks, Ian. I appreciate you calling in.
Yep, have a good one.
So there's Ian saying he doesn't think God really plays a role that much. And, it may seem, because, I can think back to when my beloved Steelers won their last Super Bowl against the Arizona Cardinals. And a quarterbacking for Arizona, Kurt Warner, strong man of faith. Quarterbacking the beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, honestly, a bit of a reprobate at that point in his life. He seems to have cleaned himself up and straightened himself out now, and thank God for that. But at that time, not so much. So clearly, it's hard to look at that and say, well, here's Kurt Warner, a good, solid man of God. Here's Ben Roethlisberger living kind of an immoral lifestyle. And yet, who was the winning quarterback? Ben Roethlisberger throws the pass to win the game at the end. Now, Kurt Warner, very gracious in defeat, and actually I think got a lot of attention for how well he handled that and how gracious he was in defeat and really showed, a Christian spirit in that. And a lot of people noticed that, and so God used that for his glory even in defeat. So sometimes God can use a season even in defeat. But it does seem like if we're going to say, well, he's going to give it to the better Christian, maybe not always. Didn't seem to work out that way in that game. Or maybe God's just a big Steelers fan, which is understandable. Is God taking a side in the Super Bowl? Give us a call. Let us know. 419-240-1937 or 1-800-457-1937. Or if you just want to text in your thoughts on that, your opinions, you can do that too. Email or text it, studio@yeshome.com. What do you think? God going to take sides this Super Bowl? Is he picking the 49ers and Jim Harbaugh over the Baltimore Ravens and John Harbaugh? Does he love one of the Harbaugh brothers more than the other? Jacob I have loved, Esau I have hated. Ooh, it could be. Cain and Abel. Abel found favor, Cain did not. Will it be a judgment on one of the Harbaugh brothers? It's very complicated. You never knew that the Super Bowl was this theologically complicated, did you? You thought it was just a football game. Silly you. There's a lot of theological issues here. 419-240-1937 or 1-800-457-1937. Give us a call. Let us know what you think. Is God taking a sides in the Super Bowl? That's Owl City. When can I see you again? Right here on Yes FM, music that will change your life. Looking for your thoughts on the Super Bowl, and especially in relation to this poll done by the Public Religion Research Institute, survey of 1,033 adults. 27% believe that God plays a role in determining which team wins a sporting event. Another 53% believe God rewards athletes who have faith. And, of course, Sports Illustrated just ran a cover story this week asking, does God care who wins the Super Bowl? Why would God care about something as trivial as a football game? Doesn't he have some bigger concerns, bigger things to worry about? And all this being reported, this is from the USA Today article. What do you think? Does God care about who wins the Super Bowl? Well, I just want to share one verse with you. That's a little something for you to ponder and think about. Matthew 10, verses 29 and 30. Are not two sparrows sold for a penny? This is Jesus speaking, by the way. Are not two sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father. And even the very hairs on your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Now, Jesus' point he's making here is sparrows, which were considered so worthless in that day that you could buy two of them for a penny. All right, they had really no value or worth. They were so commonplace. And Jesus says, yet even something as commonplace and generally worthless as a sparrow does not fall to the ground apart from the will of God, apart from God's knowledge. He says, if that is the case with a sparrow, which has so little worth, how much more for you who are worth so much more than a sparrow? Worth so much that God knows even the very hairs on your head and has numbered them. If not even a sparrow can fall to the ground apart from the will of God, do you think the Super Bowl could happen apart from the will of God? Which team wins apart from the will of God? Now, does that mean God's actively willing one team over the other? Because there's a difference between God's active will and passive will. And obviously, you start wading into deep waters when we start talking about God's will and human freedom and how those two intersect. And that's been a debate that's happened in the church for thousands of years. And I suppose theologians will be debating that and thinking on that until Jesus comes back. How our free will and how God's sovereignty intermingle and how they work together. But the point is that God is sovereign over all things, and that includes the Super Bowl. Now, does that mean God's actively willing for one side to win over the other? Oh, I don't know that he's necessarily doing that, but he might. He might, if it serves his purposes. Then whether he's actively willing it, his passive will is having control over it. He has knowledge. He knows who's going to win. He knows how it's going to play out. He knows all things. And he knows how he's going to use it for his glory. Because nothing happens apart from the will of God. In the sense that God allows certain things to happen. Now, that doesn't mean he necessarily causes everything to happen by his direct will. But he allows things to happen. He allows us to have a certain freedom and to choose. But even our exercise of that freedom is an expression of God's sovereignty because we only have it because God wills it. If we have freedom, it's because God has willed that we would have freedom. If God didn't want us to have freedom, we would not. So whatever freedom we have, and it's a limited freedom, we don't have absolute freedom. We all have a very limited freedom, quite frankly. But to the extent that we have any freedom at all, it is only because God has so willed it. And so all things really do come under God's control. And I say that only to say this. It's not really about the Super Bowl. Although, God cares about that. And it matters to him, just as all things do. But if God is expressing his will over even a sparrow who falls to the ground, then how much more, as Jesus says, was he expressing his will over your life? And his control over your life. Your life may feel out of control to you right now. It may feel like crazy things are happening. And we look at our economy and so many things impact us that we have no control over. We really have no control over, our health and our thing. I mean, we can do things to impact it and help it or hurt it. But at the end of the day, we can't control it. We increase our odds of being healthier if we exercise and eat right. But that's no guarantee we won't get cancer or some disease. We really have limited control over all these things. But you know who doesn't have limited control? God. And if not even a sparrow can fall to the ground apart from his will, then nothing can happen in your life apart from his will. And however out of control your life may feel, God is in control of it. And when we bring ourselves into alignment with God's will, you know what happens? Our world begins to get ordered again. And everything that seemed out of control starts to be put back into order because now we're living in the will of God. And we're aligning ourselves to that will instead of fighting against it. And that should be hopefully a great word of comfort to you and hope to you. And as Jesus says, because of this, don't be afraid. As he says, so don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. God is in charge of your life. He's got everything under control. It's going to be okay. He's taking care of you. So as you're watching the Super Bowl this week, remember, God has an interest in this. I don't know to what extent he's willing anything and whether he's, willing one team to win over the other. I don't know. But I know it's not going to happen apart from his will. And I know this, neither will your life, and you can trust in him. And that should give you peace and hope. And hopefully it does. So get a little, as you're watching the Super Bowl, just remember that the same God who's sovereign over that is sovereign over you. And he's taking care of you. Hopefully a little bit of encouragement.